Hey everybody, are you being a good noodle?
I'm a good noodle! I'm a good noodle!
You'll get this star back when you earn it.
No!
What dramatic television. Alright, so back into notes we covered in the last video, just the important words that we are going to be in this little section, and then we were introduced to Frederick Douglass, who I told you was one of my favorite over, I think it was last winter break. I read 3 of his books. He's a writer. He was born in slavery, but he taught himself to read, to write, and he eventually escaped, and he wrote books, and I think I read 3 of them. So if you're bored over break, Amazon, the Frederick Douglass's books, The Narrative of a Fugitive Slave. So your first part of your notes, we have working conditions of slaves. So slaves work on plantations, both large and small. As I go through these notes, feel free to pause at any time to take these notes. Slaves worked from dawn to dusk in the fields, and then after dark they would carry water, split wood, feed animals, clean cotton, etc. Their work never ever ended. If they were field hand, they didn't have rest from sunup to sundown. So here is one of the primary sources from Frederick Douglass's book. He says, "I never know what it was to rest. I just work all the time from morning till late at night. I had to do everything there was to do on the outside. Work in the field, chop wood, hoe corn, till sometimes I feel like my back surely break. My back surely would break, but with old English." Continuing on their notes, working conditions. Not everybody worked in fields. Some were skilled seamstresses, which means they did sewing, usually in the master's house. Carpenters, blacksmiths, or they would cook, clean, and they were servants in the master's house. From age 6 until their death, they worked hard. They could never look forward to an easier life, and they hardly get any time to eat or drink. There's definitely not like a lunch break for these people. Here's another quote from Frederick Douglass. Oh, I can't make myself smaller. He called up in the morning at daybreak, and is seldom allowed time enough to swallow 3 mouthfuls of hominy, which is boiled corn similar to grits, a hoe cake, which is cornbread, but is driven out immediately to the field for hard labor. About noon he eats his dinner, so dinner was served at lunchtime, and he is seldom allowed an hour for that purpose. Then they return to serve severe labor, which continues until dusk. So there was no peace throughout his day. Living conditions. Most masters viewed their slaves as things to be worn out, not improved, as property and as objects. So these people, they viewed their slaves as objects, as something you can just work until it breaks. It's not something that you're not going to try and help this person better themselves. You're not going to help them with their skills. You're not going to help them gain knowledge, but you're just going to work them until they break or they die. They provided only what was needed for their slaves to be healthy. They're treated like farm animals. Medicine wasn't a big thing unless it would have impacted their uh, likelihood to produce different crops or to be able to do their job. And many lived in rough, crowded cabins. Excuse me. Here's another primary source. This one's about the living conditions. We lodged in log huts and are on bare ground. Wooden floors were an unknown luxury. In a single room were huddled, like cattle, 10 to a dozen persons, men, women, and children. We had neither bedsteads nor furniture of any description. Our beds were collections of straw and old rags, thrown down in the corners. You can just see Frederick Douglass's experience was awful. Can you imagine living in a small house with 10 or 20 people, having to sleep on the floor with no bed, no privacy? It's unbelievable how people were treated. We're down to 20 seconds, so we'll go through this one real quick. Living condition of slaves. We don't have time to get through these. We'll pick back up on this one in the next video. See you later.